Hello and welcome to another episode of the Space Update, part of the fantastic Total Space Network. Coming up on today's show, we'll be talking SpaceX, Starship, ULA, and all the latest news. I'm your host Ryan, and joining me today is
I'm Mikko, the host of Deep Dive Fridays.
I'm another space nut. I linger around total space.
I'm Rich LB, and I'm a host of Becoming Multiplanetary, and thank you, Ryan, for letting me join today.
No problem, guys. Let's get started. Let's kick off with the most recent news. Hayabusa-2. It's finally landed in the Australian outback the other day. Quite a small capsule, essentially a little box capsule, sort of sat on like a little 12-inch plate, if you like. It's quite a small return capsule, really. Confirmed it will actually share the samples with NASA and with the OSIRIS-REx.
Yeah, that's really cool. Did you guys watch it live? I mean, I did, and I saw the capsule re-entry. It was pretty nice.
I followed it on the news feed via Twitter and everything because I was quite busy at the time. But everyone just posting pictures from Australia about it streaking through the air and all sorts. There was some good footage, well, from the actually Australian Space Agency that they put out tracking it through the atmosphere.
It's an exciting time, isn't it, to have samples? Because I know moon samples are hard to come across. I mean, I think it's great that the Japanese are reaching for these ambitions and bringing more sample banks. You know, samples are in a really limited supply. Like, try and get lunar samples. You know, it's practically unheard of.
So I know that the mission was scheduled to retrieve roughly 100 milligrams of sample mass. Does anybody know what the final weight of the sample was?
From the JAXA one, the Hayabusa-2, if you like, I don't believe it's been confirmed yet, but the size of the capsule, I imagine it will be quite small because it's essentially, you can essentially pick it up in the palm of your hand.
Well, you've seen on the news pictures, the dude's holding it on a tiny little plate. It's about the size, smaller than a shoebox, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but to just a sample return box, so you never really know because all that was essentially was like the heat shield, which is or the plate we're calling it, and that small box. And all that was needed was some basic guidance and then some basic pyrotechnics to fire up the parachutes when it came in.
It could even be that they haven't even opened yet and they don't know the exact amount unless they somehow measured it in the orbit of Ryugu, the asteroid.
I mean, in comparison to OSIRIS-REx, it probably won't be anywhere near that much because OSIRIS-REx went a bit overboard and smashed into the asteroid, went a bit too far into it. So, but it's quite exciting that they're actually, NASA and JAXA are actually sharing samples and results and everything like that, which I kind of expected, but at the same time, I wasn't expecting it, which is quite interesting, really.
Well, at the end of the day, they've just had a JAXA astronaut go up on Crew 1 as well, so the spirit of cooperation is most definitely there recently.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the most recent announcements from over on Twitter, one of the guys over at NASA said, "We're excited about the collaboration between JAXA Hayabusa-2 mission and NASA's asteroid sample return mission, OSIRIS-REx. The partnership allows us to share samples from our mission at Bennu and also receive a portion of JAXA's sample from Ryugu." So it'd be a good comparison, really, for the two different asteroids. So do they share the same materials? They're the same from the early beginnings of the universe, essentially, which is really interesting, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be great for our knowledge in the solar system and how the planets and asteroids formed. But I do hope that also China will share their samples from the lunar mission.
Yeah, definitely. That's on its way back home, probably back very, very shortly, because it's not too far away, the moon, at the end of the day, compared to the likes of the millions and millions of miles away that the asteroids are. We've got a sample from the moon's surface, those. Really fantastic footage online of those. I don't know if any of you guys managed to catch any of that.
I saw pictures of the Chang'e 5 launching from the actual the Ascender, as it was. They put a couple of pictures online of the Ascender launching up from the lander.
And they actually have video of all those that ascent and also orbital docking around the moon. And yeah, they've been sharing the material, not live, but anyway, after success.
Yeah, some great footage and everything. And more interestingly, the second country to now put a flag on the moon, China. So raises the stakes for American go back there and everyone else.
mean, it's exciting when we consistently say, as space nerds over here and rocket nuts and stuff, that competition's a good thing within the rocket launch market. You know, that's also true of exploring planets. If China are getting this advantage, then it's going to make the US feel inadequate. And as a result, they're going to strive for that 2024 Artemis mission a lot more than perhaps they might not have if the Chinese hadn't gone there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really, really fantastic because there's going to be lots more of these little lunar landers going back and forth from the moon prior to us actually making a permanent base on there as such with the likes of Starship or whatever else may be. But these little landers, I think we're going to see a lot more of them, a lot more frequently.
I mean,
Yeah.
congratulations to them. You know, they've worked their butts off to really get this working, and you know, later on in this month, it's going to land in Inner Mongolia, all being well.
Yeah, NASA has the CLIPS program to land many science rovers, robots on the moon, and probably some of them would return the samples too.
And I mean, it paves the way for bigger sample return missions, doesn't it? You know, we've currently got a rover on Mars collecting and dropping samples ready for return also in the 2030s. And these kind of missions are precursors to that. You know, for as much as we're saying, it's 100 milligrams, or, you know, there's a few grams of sample here from an asteroid smash, that's still paving the way for more sample return missions and more of an understanding about how our universe works, I feel.
Definitely, and obviously you got the redirect DART mission coming up in the next year. Well, the launch of it anyway, so that'll be an exciting one again. Just pinging off the side note to the asteroids and everything, how to redirect them with an actual satellite and everything. Or well, not a satellite as such, but something smashing into an asteroid trying to redirect it.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting mission, and well, can't wait for it.
It's exciting. It's part of our defences naturally. You know, we've got the likes of Elon Musk saying that a catastrophic event is going to happen to Earth and we need a backup. And these kind of missions pave the way for Earth defence systems at a later point in the human history. You know, the ability to deflect asteroids is going to be critical because it's just a matter of time before an extinction level event happens due to asteroid impact.
Yeah, and spinning off backup systems, we were worried that Delta 4 Heavy was going to need a backup system, but it looks like it's go for launch now. The Enroll 44 finally, after what, 5 or 6 months or more, or maybe a little less than that. I'm probably over
It's
egging it.
definitely a cursed mission, that's for sure. It'll be good to see it get off the ground and into space.
Definitely. It's just one of those things. It's like a fantastic rocket. It just the way it takes off, it just lights itself on fire with the way it ignites and everything at launch. Be good to get to see that rocket back in action because it has got 3 or 4 launches backed up pretty soon now. Because as Tori's said, it's getting taken out of the fleet of ULA's rockets and getting ready for Vulcan coming online next year. So that'd be exciting to see as well.
Yeah, definitely. Vulcan is pretty much a ready rocket, except for the Blue Origin's BE4 engines. I think those are the limiting factor at the moment.
Yeah, and Blue Origin recently in the past week or so, they're still working on the B7 engines for their lunar lander. Been carrying out more tests and everything, like static fire tests and fuel tests and everything. So they're still hard at work, although they're not seem to be doing too much of the rockets as such behind closed doors and everything like that. But very active on the engine side by the looks of it.
Yeah, they actually seem quite comfortable with their product and their moonlander, because I think it was just a few days ago when Blue Origin tweeted a picture of BE7 engine test firing, quoting that this engine will be taking the first woman on the moon.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong, their engines and everything seem absolutely spot on. Just the power output and everything, when you compare it to the actual SpaceX Raptor engines, they're actually along the same lines of power outreach, really. So they're not any worse than SpaceX as such. so to speak. But I think they've got a really solid system. I think they'll surprise quite a few people when they eventually do bring out New Glenn. It might not be perfect at first, but I think it will be quite a reliable rocket once they iron out all the little niggles.
Speaking of surprising people, did anybody see that Virgin are making a flight this week?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, just in the next week or so. Obviously weather dependent, because obviously that's another air launch, if you like, launching from the. I forget the name of the plane now, but correct me, one of you guys, if you remember the name. Just to confuse you, we have got Launcher 1 and we've got Virgin Galactic as well. So we've got both of them flying very soon. Flying, launching, whatever you want to call it. The two different types of launch
I mean,
vehicles.
the air launch system's a unique one to watch. We're used to seeing rockets get launched from the ground and creating this big plume of smoke and steam. And to see them go through the air, I think it's a nice change.
Yeah, it's really nice to see some footage from the air launch.
It's just a whole different ball game. So a lot of guys are having to do a lot more experiments on the way it actually launches, because obviously you've already got usual flight path of the aeroplane, but they've got usually a rocket essentially just goes straight up, then sideways into space, if you like. But on an aeroplane, it's already going sideways, but you need to create that upward momentum to get into orbit. So it's a different way of thinking, really. So it's just a different challenge.
So, Ryan, I took the liberty of checking up on the stats between the BE4 and the Raptor. Whilst it does have a slightly higher, the BE4, sorry, has a slightly higher thrust. The only issue is they haven't revealed what the specific impulse of the engine is, so you can't really do a proper comparison.
Yeah, I saw that because we kicked out loads of facts and figures. So on paper at the moment, it does look really, really good, and I don't underestimate it, because they pretty much guarantee that it will be that around that power and it will be really efficient. But like you say, it's until we get that number, then we can make a proper comparison, because it might kick out the same power, but it uses 10% more fuel, which is just ridiculous when you're talking percentages on rocket engines, stuff like that.
Absolutely. I mean, with a greater specific impulse, you're getting more bang for your buck in space as well. I wonder if the reason they haven't launched the specific impulse data is because they haven't actually gotten it to space yet, or to have a proper thrust test.
Quite possibly, quite possibly. I mean, I'm sure they've done lots of ground tests, but obviously how it performs in the air and in actual real life settings, it's a whole different ball game, because obviously Boeing have learned the hard way by relying on computer programs and everything to do simulations, and then the actual physical thing didn't work because a few people didn't do the job properly and stuff like that. But I'm assuming they've done lots of simulations, but not too much real life testing, if you like.
Either way, it'll be interesting to see those stats come out once we've got proper data and be able to make a good comparison.
Definitely. And obviously, we've seen Rocket Lab last week do a launch and landing in the sea in preparation for the catch and everything when they eventually do that. But Peter Beck said they're going to carry on doing a few more landings at sea. So we might see their next launch, which is called The Owl's Night Begins. We might see that one land in the sea again.
Yeah, I would think so. Is that launch from New Zealand as well?
I believe so. It's one full of multiple satellites again, like CubeSats and everything. Quite a few packed up on there.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how many soft recovery attempts they make before making that catch. We're all on the edge of our seat when they announced return to sender. Initially, we were fairly hopeful that might be the case, to quickly have it dismissed by Peter Beck. But the soft splashdown approach does seem to work, and it is a really good way of getting data. I'm just fingers crossed and hoping for a genuine scoop mid-air recovery attempt for the Electron. I think it's going to be exciting to see.
Yeah, I would think they will do couple of more test runs before they actually try with a helicopter. It would be pretty bad accident if the booster would come on top of the copter.
I think they got it pretty well nailed down, because what Sir Peter Beck said, it actually has, if it still sticks with the aerofoil, they're thinking of getting rid of the aerofoil and just using it like a traditional parachute of some sort. Obviously, whether it's just for these flights where it's landing in the sea, whether they're going to carry on with that and then the helicopter just comes along and picks it up, I don't know. But previously, what he said with the aerofoil, where it's gliding along, they have a good 10 to 15 minutes to actually catch it, so the helicopter can spot it from a safe distance at height and just catch up with it from behind. So I'm not quite sure whether they're changing tack on the recovery options. I'm not really sure on that.
And does anybody know if Peter Beck's eaten his hat yet?
He needs to. I know that.
Haven't heard about it.
I believe he's said he's more than happy to do it, but it's one of those things that he's been advised is probably bad for him. I think probably what you're going to end up seeing is somebody's going to bake him hat-shaped cake.
Yeah, that's the most probable outcome.
Jumping from one relatively new startup company to another, Avenium with their Raven X system, they just released what the full thing's going to look like. It's essentially a jet fighter that's going to carry a rocket under the main body and do like an air launch similar to Virgin Orbit, where they get up to a certain height, do a vertical lift towards space, drop the rocket, and then light the rocket and go. This one's a £55,000 unpiloted aircraft. It's about 80 feet long with a 60-foot wingspan. Obviously, while in flight, it released a two-stage rocket that can launch 100 kilograms to 500 kilograms of payload to low Earth orbits. Ready, in theory, they said, in the next 18 months, which is around about just not shy of 2 years. So another exciting project coming up.
I mean, looking at it, it looks almost like the X-34 space plane, doesn't it? It looks very nice and very streamlined.
Yeah, and this one's rather than your standard 747 or a glider as such with Virgin Galactic. This one's essentially a supersonic jet fighter of sorts. It's just going to fly supersonic, then shoot up towards the air, and then release the rocket and flip down back to Earth, which is a hell of a lot more speed involved with it by the looks of it.
Yeah, sounds like an interesting concept, and the payload capacity would be just around the Rocket Lab mark.
So it looks a hell of a lot more stealthier and aerodynamic than what we've seen previously by anyone else. They're essentially going to try and go supersonic, then shoot to the sky and drop the rocket and go kind of thing. So rather than going like subsonic with a 747 or anything like that, and then trying to shoot off to gain momentum, they're going to try and go supersonic. Don't know how fast, and then straight up vertical. So in a way, the rocket's got less momentum to build up to get into orbit. In a way, so it's be a little bit easier starting off at Mach 1 or Mach 2 rather than 900 miles an hour or 900 kilometers an hour, whatever you call it.
Did anybody see the Elon interview at the Axel Springer Award 2020 this year? It was on the 1st of December this year. Elon gave an interview where he talks about his ambitions for SpaceX and making a Mars shot. Says if they get everything right, he could be sending an uncrewed mission to Mars in as little as 2 years, with a crewed mission hopefully 2026, or once again, if they get lucky, 2024.
I'm sure he said 2023 as well, if everything goes perfectly as well. I vaguely remember that. Yeah, I've read bits of it, but I didn't actually watch it or anything like that. But essentially said he said humans will be further down the line, but in terms of just checking something there for the fun of it, or whether it be a rover or some sort of thing there, he said it could quite easily be 2023, 2024. Just on a test run of the Starship or something like that.
Yeah, he said 2023, but naturally because of the Hohmann transfer window, it would be 2024 when it launches, but they could be ready by 2023 to launch for the 2024 Hohmann transfer.
Did he speak anything about the moon?
He did not speak too greatly about the moon. He did say that there was a need for a base there in order to progress towards Mars, but he didn't mention any of the moon ambitions that they've got.
Sounds like a great interview that we should link to the description.
Speaking of Elon, we can tie this in perfectly. Did you know that the Perseverance rover is now over 69% of the way to Mars?
Not far away at all now, is it?
Yeah. 69.5% of the way with 89,229,500 miles counting.
And how many names on board, Rich?
A lot, including mine, actually, and my partner's.
Mine's on there as well, and my partner's.
I'm there too.
And I know we're all heading towards the moon soon, courtesy of TJ, who we spoke with recently at Total Space.
I'm also on that one as well.
I believe I put a photo on there, I think.
Yeah, I put a photo in there too with Felix's project.
Yeah, it was with Felix's project that I put a photo on there. I don't believe I had my name on there though, but it's not a big, no photo of me's going to the. Well, actually, it's a photo of me and my partner that's going to the moon. So we're going everywhere. I'm racking up them space miles, boys.
We saw the first Cargo 2 Dragon capsule go up just a few days ago as well, didn't we? It's the first time we've seen that one. The cargo version of it actually launched at the International Space Station. It was quite interesting, that.
I've got to say, it was a very beautiful design. I like the changes on the Cargo Dragon 2.
Yeah, there was basically two big differences, or three. Of course, the inside of the capsule is for cargo. Then there was no abort engines, Super Dracos, and the trunk had only 2 fins compared to 4.
We also saw a good view of the trunk, the inside of the trunk, when it got released from the second stage. We actually got to see what's actually behind it, whereas previously it had just been released, and then we got to see the capsule later on. We never got to see what's inside that trunk underneath, where the heat shield of the Dragon capsule is.
I've got to say, it's a very beautiful looking docking adapter. Now, I don't often say that inanimate things are beautiful, but my God, did they design that docking adapter well?
Yeah, it looked beautiful. Was it a Nanorax Bishop adapter, or am I right?
It was the Nanorax adapter, yeah.
Yeah, that's great for science payloads. And actually, the CRS-21 capsule just docked a few hours ago to the ISS, and it was great to see live. And also, few hours before that, I actually looked up the skies to see ISS fly by, and I saw a couple of flashes after it. So I think that may have been the Dragon capsule, even though I may have imagined it.
Eagle eye, Miko.
That's the great thing about living so far north is you can get some really clear views.
Yeah, and northern winter has a lot of darkness. Good for looking up the skies.
And also we've got from SpaceX as well. We've got NROL 108 launching later in the week, another NROL military satellite. Seen quite a lot of them lately. They must be replacing the old ones that are up there and everything.
I imagine they must be operational satellites for the US's new Space Force.
Yeah, communication satellites and of various sizes by the looks of it. Because we've seen with Delta IV Heavy, the one that's there launching the 44, it can't be transferred to a rocket. Tori hinted that it's quite a heavy one. It has to be put on a heavy style rocket.
Yeah, and well, this is kind of the Suma-2 mission because they haven't really told anything about the payload.
Yeah, I mean, they're just generally advanced communication satellites and imagery of sorts. We don't know exactly what are on these. We can only assume and guess. But it is quite interesting to wonder what they're spying on us from all the way up there with.
Yeah, and actually, I think there was another SpaceX launch also, SXM-7. That's for Thursday.
Yeah, another one, yeah. And I think there was another one happening tomorrow, I think, wasn't there?
That's some kind of radio broadcasting satellite.
I was joking. I was going to say Starship.
Sorry, I didn't listen.
And that means we can get total space in space if it's radio broadcasting.
Definitely.
Nice one.
But yeah, anyway, we've got Starship potentially launching some point this week, before the release of the episode or after, who knows. But exciting nevertheless. We've got SN9 pretty much ready to go now. The SN10 in development. We've got the booster stacking just starting this week. Lots and lots going on. It's just insane the amount of development that's going on. I think very quickly we're going to end up with 3 or 4 or even 5 starships. Barring if SN8 survives.
Does anyone know why the hop keeps getting scrubbed? Is it to do with any technical difficulties with the rocket, or is it to do with weather?
It's a little bit of everything, I believe. They just wanted to get as much out of this one because it's static fired at least 4 or 5 times now. So they just want to test it as much as they can because they don't expect this one to survive. It's literally like 20-30% chance of surviving, but take off. Never mind landing or anything like that.
They even lowered the hop altitude from 15K to 12.5.
Yeah, that was quite interesting. I mean, it might be due to the fact that it might glide too far because in theory it should land on that somewhere near that pad that's not too far away. When you think about it, it's going to have to flop forward, glide, and then do the little swing round to correct itself and then land.
Wonder if the SpaceX staff have like a sort of inside pool where they bet on whether the Starship is going to land or crater or whatever.
Got to be some kind of bet going on, honestly. I'd definitely do it. What's your bet then?
It's going in the drink.
I agree.
Well, as you said, it's preferable that it does go in the drink so they can research it rather than it crater on land.
I think it's going to launch. It'll get up to the 12 kilometers, then it'll try to do the flop, but then I think it might just end up tumbling. I might lose a fin or something like that because of the sheer shock of the thing flopping forward. Because we haven't actually seen the fins and the flaps and everything move as such on its own. We've seen them move them around manually or get blown around in the wind, but we haven't actually seen them test anything to do with the flaps yet.
Has anybody actually worked out how much force will be exerted on the spacecraft's integrity when it does the flop maneuver? Because that can't be G-less. The viciousness of that maneuver suggests that the structure is really going to have some stress on it.
Well, I hope someone at SpaceX has done those calculations.
I mean, they can do these 12-kilometer hops as much as they want, but when you compare the stress of re-entry from orbit, it's just going to be a different magnitude altogether.
And I mean, not just a re-entry from orbit, but like a Martian re-entry. Imagine the amount of pressure that's going to cause on the vessel. So doing these tests now is vital, but then how much does it reveal about that deep space return?
Definitely. And as well, when they're in space, they've got a whole different host of problems to think about, like the fuel boil-off and all the other crazy things that go on in space.
Yeah, they can't really test the heat shield with these low altitude flights.
Definitely. And it's an exciting week for space and an exciting week for SpaceX. I think we'll wrap it up there because I'm pretty sure we could talk all night about SpaceX and Starship and everything else. Thanks for listening, guys. And a big thank you to all our Patreon listeners and eavesdroppers here in Discord. I'm Ryan from the Space Update. And if you would like to become a Patreon member, head over to patreon.com/Total Space.
I've been Mikko, the host of Deep Dive Fridays. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter, YouTube, and your favorite podcast platform.
I've been Another Space Nut. You can find me at twitter.com/Another Space Nut. Thanks for listening today, guys, and thank you for our Patreon members for eavesdropping with us.
And I've been Rich LB, host of Becoming Multiplanetary. As always, at the end of each episode, I've now started a new thing, so let's do it. Big thank you to Jishwan and Sebastian, Gio Pagliari, Framrick, Susie R, and Marco for being our Patreons. As Ryan said earlier, if you would also like to become one of our Patreons and you like what you hear, simply head over to patreon.com/Total Space. Thank you for listening.
Cheers, guys. Catch you next week.